Awesome. So going over the quantitative measure of flight time is important for determining just quantitative performance by showing how much force, because the more force you produce, the longer you will be in the air, and therefore the higher you will jump. So that measures a quantitative performance measure. So starting with the propulsion phase, we'll measure when the feet leave the ground and then when they return to the ground. So looking here, the toes initially leave the ground at 5.3 seconds, and you can see that he keeps rising. The client rises until about 5.66 and continues and lands at, let's see, at 5.93. So he's in the air for about 0.66 seconds, and that would be the quantitative measure of flight time. Awesome. So the second quantitative measure that I'll be doing will be the vertical jump. I don't have access to a Vertac, which is the machine where you hit it and it shows how many things spin around, and that's how you measure your height. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the old-fashioned chalk method, where I'm still going to use that counter movement jump in that form where your hands are on your hips, you go down, you jump, but I'm just going to have one arm up since it doesn't require any arm swing. And you'll measure where you start, you'll measure at the peak of the jump, at the apex, and then as I come down, I'll touch again to measure the depth of attenuation. And so starting, I'll be here, and I just kind of touch out, and it leaves a small mark, and then I jump. Oh wait, hold on. One more jump. There we go. Awesome, and then so I'll just do a voiceover, and I'll show you the differences in measurement from the start to the finish. So following the viewing of the vertical jump test for the counter jump movement, we can see here that there are the measurements to show the vertical jump height. So initially looking, you can see that this is from the top of the jump, so the apex, along in comparing it to the difference of the initial standing point. So you do compare from the hands rather than the actual head of the jump, just because you can touch from the hands and see that difference. So when we initially look at it, there's about 19 inches difference. So you can see down there is the bottom, and here is a 19-inch difference, and that shows that the jump was 19 inches high. And so that's pretty considerable for a jump, and it shows decent skill acquisition for this movement. And then here's that top piece measuring there, showing that it's measured from the top. Then looking at the bottom, you can see the depth of the attenuation and landing during the jump. So that top point is where we were initially standing and measuring from, and the bottom point is that depth that was touched at the very bottom of the movement. And then finally looking at that, it looks like the attenuation was a 2-foot attenuation, so about 23 to 24 inches. Awesome, and there's the top of it.